Welcome to sidetrack number 12 for Derailed Trains of Thought. Longtime listeners might remember that sidetracks are kind of our bonus episodes where we do something that doesn't fit in with the regular one. And sometimes they serve as fill-ins for regular episodes, and that's what's going on here. Summer is always a busy time for me and Nick, and in July, we just both happened to go on vacation, but not on corresponding weeks, and so we didn't really wind up having a good time to record the July episode this year, which we apologize for, but we didn't want to leave you high and dry, so we thought we'd share some deleted scenes, some cut content from past episodes. Now, to be honest, this doesn't happen very often. You may have noticed in recent episodes have gone a little longer than maybe they should have, but you know what? People are more used to listening to long podcasts than I think when we first started out. And plus, we're just a once-a-month podcast, so hopefully you don't mind getting a little longer one every now and then. So that's one reason why we don't usually have a lot of material on the cutting room floor for these sorts of things. And so this won't be terribly long, but there is one segment that we've been sitting on for quite a while. Back, it would have been beginning of 2020 before the craziness. Episode 106 is when we did our book club review recap of all the books we read in 2019. But there were a couple things we talked about that were not part of the book club. And that episode was just running long, so we cut that out, and now you will finally get to hear those discussions, including a book by Earthsea author Ursula K. Le Guin, which is kind of fitting because we're reading another Earthsea book for our book club right now. And then the other one is also an audiobook series called Superpowers. It's possible I've mentioned Superpowers on the podcast since we recorded this segment. And if so, I apologize. I couldn't remember for sure if we did or where it was, but I think this is a meatier segment than what I talked about Superpowers before. So hopefully it's still something interesting. After that, we'll have a couple cut segments from our recent episode that would have been much more recent, episode 119, particularly in the interwebs section where we explored Zillow Gone Wild. Just a couple. That episode is also way longer than it probably needed to be, but we were having a lot of fun with that and the Jerry Maguire store. You should go check out that episode if you haven't. But anyway, there were just here's a couple more houses that we reacted to on Zillow Gone Wild that hopefully you'll enjoy. And then finally, just to kind of wrap it up, when Nick and I start recording, we typically have a few minutes at the beginning before we get started to test the microphones. Sometimes some of our conversations about something we just watched recently gets recorded in the process. And so I just thought it might be fun to kind of share some of those little snippets with you, just to share some of the fun that we have before we start recording the episode proper. So those are what's in store in this little sidetrack. So I hope you enjoy these bits and pieces from the cutting room floor. Hopefully our August episode, hopefully we can get that to you timely. Maybe we'll be able to get that out before, mid-August sometime instead of making you wait until late August. But we'll see. We're still in the midst of summer. I know Nick's school schedule, his teaching is coming up pretty soon. But anyway, with all that said, I'll get out of your hair. Enjoy these snippets from the Derailed Trains of Thought's cutting room floor.
One other notable book from this year I wanted to mention was I read Always Coming Home by Ursula Le Guin, which is, the best way to describe it, is an anthropology of a future tribe in Northern California. It's a future history.
Okay.
It's a history that hasn't happened yet.
Oh, okay.
Some sort of somewhat unspecified, cataclysm happened in the world, largely environmental, half the world is poisoned and stuff,
Okay.
This is written in the early 80s. And the best way to compare the book is, in the same way Silmarillion is basically a myth of a fake people, this is anthropology of a fake people. But instead of myths, you get recipes and poetry and plays and oral histories.
So probably inspired by the Silmarillion. But
maybe. But it's much more down to earth. It's in the nitty gritty of.
Okay.
It's in the main section, there's three main sections of this lady called Stone telling her story because she went and lived with his other militaristic tribe for a while and came back and what she learned and stuff like that. That's kind of those centers of the book. But then there's a first chapter of a novel, and there's just all these sort of artifacts. Like you would go if you went to an Indian tribe and say, "Give me all your oral histories." You just some guy goes in there and records everything.
Okay.
That's basically what it is.
Interesting.
And it's like 400 pages. I mean, it's the creative ability of Ursula Gwen is, she's amazing. I mean, she's very good. But it's also a very frustrating book because it's frustrating, fascinating. That's how I described it. Because it's a fascinating world, but like the worldview she's pushing sounds good, but isn't. Like there's just things from a Christian worldview, it's just like, you're frustrated about some of it because everyone's in peace and there's no war, and I'm like, but it's not, but there's these rhythms and these rituals, but where do they come from and how people keep doing them, and then like the tribe that's all about military and everything, they have one god, and all the women are kept in like indoors and like harems and stuff like that, and here's the thing, it is not as polemic as I'm making it sound. In some ways it is, but there's also like compassion for these people who are the bad guys. Okay. But it's like her big thing, the symbol of the tribes is this unclosed oval. Like I know I can't do visuals on podcasts, but this like unclosed loop. Okay. Because a circle is bad in the sense that there needs to be balance, but they need to be uneven in the sense that it's almost like a yin-yang sort of deal going down. Okay. But like a circle, then everything's enclosed. Having one thing, it's all about holding two things in your mind at once, not one thing. So like one God is, then everything's just single-minded. So it's weird because I can completely see if you were kind of a new age sort of person, you could read this book and be completely sold. Like she uses art to explain this worldview very, very well. And it's hard to find exactly where exactly it's wrong. Like from a Christian, it is. Yeah. But it's like, it's a very appealing, she makes it very appealing in lots of ways. So it's interesting. Huh. And the thing is though, it is also just a good book. It's not propaganda or what, it's just, but I read somewhere, there's some people just read like every couple of years, they probably have that sense of, because there's a sense of there's a lot of good things that she agrees with, this sort of living with your bounds, not being consumeristic, not, like a lot of strong ideas, but there's enough that just feels wrong that makes you uncomfortable. I finally pinned down some of it, and some of it is that the culture is very, and again, I can only use it because of the last couple of years, consent oriented. Like marriages can just, when you stop, you just stop. There's no, you just live together and then you don't. They talk about when kids are born that they choose to come into the world. Abortion, there's an abortion in it that just... Wait, the children choose to come into the world? That's the language they use. I mean, all the language is talked about in this sort of like you agreeing to things. So basically, man is God. Yeah, except there is this spiritual sense. Yeah, it's an interesting collection of man is God and this spiritual sense. Like, it's like she understands that you still need these greater things to keep outside of yourself. Outside of yourself to keep you balanced, but it's not always completely sure how those things came about. Anyways, fascinating book, super frustrating. I would not recommend it to... You have to be this right sort of person to really... I enjoyed reading it partly because it just is a masterful creation of a world in a very unique way, which I find interesting. But it's not everyone's cup of tea by any means. All right. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I'll breeze through this as fast as I can. This summer when I did my big road trip, I decided to try Audible for the first time. Yeah. So when I did Thrawn as an audiobook recently. And the audiobook is a very unique experience, I think. I mean, the downside of it is if you really get into a section, you can't just start reading faster. You're limited at the pace that the author reads. But it is nice for people who need to multitask, for people who travel a lot. And for fast-driven lives, I can see why audiobooks have really risen in popularity. And it's just so much easier and more affordable with current technology. But I got into the series called Superpowered by Drew Hayes. My sister had recommended it to me, and it's basically, I think I may have mentioned it in a past episode, a superhero college. Each book is a year in that, so freshman year through senior year.
And this was apparently a web series originally that was later published as books and then later done as audiobooks. And I hadn't thought about that at the time, but it made sense in retrospect, just kind of the way the character interactions work. When I started off, it felt very anime-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've seen My Hero Academia, some similar ideas. But because they capture the college setting really well, and there are different requirements for the superhero world than My Hero Academia has. One of the things I think I found fascinating about it is that he is a really good author in terms of balancing character development and world creation. Like they seem to go hand in hand very well. There's obviously certain key mysteries that felt like they were planned a long way away that come into culmination in the last book. So that stuff felt very planned. I would be fascinated to know how much of the rest of the day by day stuff he was just kind of
making up from serializing.
Yeah, the fact that it never felt too like pre-planned, and the fact that the character interactions felt very organic, I thought was just a really impressive balancing act. Anytime if you felt like it was going too much into world building, then the next chapter would be a great character kind of study. And I could tell his writing skills grew as the series went on. Like earlier on, I kind of felt like each character, when you write, a lot of your characters have a lot of yourself into it.
Yeah.
I felt like there were a lot of really overly analytical characters sometimes that they dived into situations a little bit too much, but then they felt more and more unique as the series went on. And great character arcs, great character growth. Only thing I would caution our conservative listeners, it does tick off just about every content warning that you can come up with. Usually, it has language, it has violence, because these are superheroes learning how to fight each other and beating the heck out of each other. And there's a couple steamy scenes, but it never goes full-fledged into the actual full-fledged sex scenes. They always cut away before that sort of thing happens. There's a lot more drinking in this college than in my Christian college, but again, as the series goes on, they have less and less time for that sort of thing because the curriculum just amps up that much and the circumstances amp up. And he's not afraid to drop F-bombs, but it's not like it's every chapter. It's usually, it's what I call tasteful swearing, where it felt like it served a purpose. So if you're okay with those sorts of caveats, the narrator for the audiobook series, if you're interested in that, I thought he was excellent. There's one chapter in the last book that made my tear ducts flow a little bit, that I may not have if I had just been reading it. I might have just skimmed over it before, but just the way he actually made his voice crack, it seemed like really impressive. So
nice. So
anyway, that's Superpowers. If you're looking for something fun, it's an audiobook series I can recommend, I think.
Nice.
The interesting thing about a lot of these things, not just the fact that they exist, but the fact that, can you imagine living in one of these places? Okay, so
someone did.
Like, for example, here's one that has a lot of pink
in the kitchen.
Pink kitchen cabinets.
Yep, pink everything.
Pink tables. Pink
bathroom
walls.
Accents.
A lighter pink in this case.
Yeah, it's nice. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a little much for me, but
pink upholstery. So that one's fairly simple.
Yeah. It's like one of those igloo sort of houses.
Yeah, so here's our next one. It looks kind of Star Wars-y on the outside, at least from this angle.
Right, kind of Adobe igloo sort of thing. Which I've seen things like this. There's one around Auburn, I think. Is there kind of these?
Maybe?
Kind of these dome-ish ones? I don't know. There's
kind of nice stone work on the inside.
Yeah, and very metal
spiral staircase. Metal is in lots of railings.
Well, in the top is like a weird, what is that? Is that the floor? Like a grate floor?
I think so. Something like that.
I feel like this is almost like something you see in like some sort of puzzle game. Okay, then they have kids, or I'm assuming kids with the turtle chair and the weird castle thing.
It's interesting. Some people thought, looking through the comments, there's no way kids live here because with like those railings look like a kid could just stick their head inside of it. But nope, there's kids' toys.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Yep. Oh, yeah, one of these.
Yeah, one of the hexagonal.
That's the one over by Auburn, somewhere around here.
Well, this one's in Florida, but still.
But I think there's one of these hexagon ones. I've always found these things kind of interesting.
It's kind of a hexagon, folks. We mean it's kind of one of these dome-shaped buildings, but they're built.
It's like a dodecahedron
hexagon.
More.
Yeah,
I mean total.
Like a 20-sided die. That's a house.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. 100-sided.
The interesting thing on the inside, you can see the roof on the hexagons, but most of them just look like it's unfinished plywood.
I've always been interested in these sort of houses. I have a memory of my early memory of childhood looking at one of these. I don't even know where that was. Do you know the drive-in? What is playing this weekend? Did you see?
No.
Back to the Future and Jaws.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm like, oh wow.
Oh man, if I wasn't going out of town.
I know.
That's cool. No, I'd like to see them do more old stuff like that.
I think they're going to. I know Strands talk about doing like matinees on Saturday, playing like just old monster classics. Because what else are you going to play?
Yeah. Up until Christopher Nolan's movie comes out.
Oh man, that movie's going to be fun.
That looks. I had a laugh when it had like emphasized in theater.
No, it's like
that's so Christopher Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
He's always been pushing the theatrical experience.
Watching Batman, it's very interesting. Like the fight between Batman and Bane, there's no music. It's not remotely exaggerated. It's just people hitting each other. Except that's almost why it's so bad. I mean, like to watch because brutal. So brutal because like there's no sound effects, there's no nothing. It's just like they just film people fighting, and it's weird. But you don't see that very often without music or extra slashes or sped up photography or something.
Right. Testing 1 2 3.
Testing 3 2 1 0.
5 4 3 2 1.
3.141529.
Do you remember more than that?
That's about all I got.
Yeah, okay. 3.1452. Yeah. At one time, I was really trying to do that for Wallace P. Fitzgerald. You had me like trying to quote that. And
yeah, all the numbers.
I was never super great at it. I think even in the final take I used, I stumbled towards like, wait, no, is that?
So you were too square.
Yeah, I'm too square.
To do circles.
Yes, exactly.
What goes around comes around. Okay, ready?
Yep, go for it.
Okay.
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 So we watched, I don't know why it reminded me, but we watched Candace versus the Universe, which was pretty great.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, this is wonderful.
Yep, that was fun.
Baljeet and Doofenshmirtz got along very well.
Say what?
Baljeet and Doofenshmirtz seem to get along pretty well. Have they interacted? The kids and Doofenshmirtz almost never interact, do
Not
they?
to that level, no. Actually, the only other time I think of is in the movie, and they wound up losing their memories about all that.
The one thing,
even then, they didn't really spend that much time with
adulting. The only other thing I really wanted to see, more of Jeremy's LARPing. I felt like that there was more there. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I could totally see that. It was fun.
It was a lot.
They were going to form the meta joke where they were like going through warp speed.
Remind me of the caveman episode.
I was wondering if you'd ever seen that one.
That was a great episode. I did also enjoy it. They spent forever doing the like. Wait, when you look at it, it makes that sound. Oh, the city. Like, the sci-fi sound. They just talked about it for like 20 minutes. Who's like, oh, yeah, it does. I can't know why it does that.
Baka-da-baka-wonk. Baka-da-baka-wonk. See, that's them like honing down their shtick to the primal level.
Exactly.
So as long as we don't yell, we should be okay.
Well, as long as you don't bring up Curious George, we'll be fine.
Right.
One of these days when you just read a kid's book on air and make up. Like, I was with Mercy. I've told this before, but I would start reading books, just add lines and stuff, and she gets so mad at me. She's like, read it normal. No, Serenity loves it when I do that. She thinks it's the funniest thing ever. That
was me as a kid. Like, I remember my aunts complaining that it wasn't fun to read me books because I would know the stories too much or too well. I was like, you already know the story.
It might tend to be
but
very
I still want to hear it. So you can't add anything.
Exactly. Well, and then it makes sense for Mercy's age, but you want to hear the story. At Serenity's age, she wants to see funny.
Sure. She's like, I've been here, done that.
Yep, exactly. Reading's not new. I can play with it.
I'm talking a little louder right now because I want to see what it sounds like.
Hello!
Yeah, okay, there's a little bit of...
Hello, kaiju lovers!
Oh, boy.
I haven't had a chance to listen to our episode. It just came out.
It came out pretty well.
Nice.
I was a little worried because I was feeling kind of burnt by the end of it, of the actual recording session.
Yeah.
But Nathan edited it pretty well, I think.
Nice. Good. Yeah, so, I haven't got to it yet. Did we keep some of the ridiculousness in there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My favorite part is when you do your beast thing, and I'm like,
The beast.
From 20,000 Fathoms.
Nice.
Was it the agreement that you would always do the 20,000 Fathoms part?
I think it would switch up and back, depending who said the beast first.
Oh, in the original one? Okay.
Yeah.
And this one, you just seem to do it each time, so I was curious.
It maybe just ended up that way. But yeah, it was 20,000 Fathoms, which is a fun movie. Nothing earth-shattering, but pretty solid.
Cool.
Live from... I almost said 20,000 Fathoms.